What's up, Earth Rockers? You didn't think I was done, did you? I know some of you who watched my last video didn't watch all the way to the end, thought I was done, but no. I said at the end of my last video that I got a few more still coming down the pipe for you all, and I meant it. And this is very special to me. The last video that I uploaded was a tier list video where I ranked all the Castlevania games that I played, which constitutes most Castlevania games in the series, and in order to celebrate Rondo of Blood's #1 spot in that tier list, I'm going to be beating it without taking any damage here. That's what this video is. The video title should say that, but I guess just in case it was unclear. And I've got more than one of these. I've got several of these that I'm going to be posting over the next week. And then that really is going to close it out, and I'm going to be done with Castlevania and also done with YouTube for a little while. I don't know how long I'll be gone, but anyway. For now, I want to talk about Rondo of Blood. So I already talked a lot about this game in my tier list video. I talked about it for a really long time. If you want to know my thoughts about the game in general, you should go watch that video and check out the part where I talk about Rondo of Blood. One thing I will say about Rondo of Blood is that the decision to no damage it was one that this was actually the first game that I decided that I was going to no damage. Originally, when I was planning to do like the this series on my channel where like I revisited games that I played last winter and last spring, all the classic Castlevania games, I was only intending really to no damage Rondo, and then sort of slowly, the more I went back and played the old games, the more I decided to like try to challenge myself more. But this was the idea that came first, and I had decided that this was going to be like the thing that I would do to like close this all out, sort of like the big finale. And I'm gonna have there's gonna be 5 of these runs in total. There's gonna be 2 with Richter, 2 with Maria, and then a third one with Maria, which is gonna be something special, which you'll see. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Richter and Rondo of Blood and no damaging Rondo of Blood. So the games that I've no damaged on this channel, the videos that I've posted already, Bloodlines JP, Dracula's Curse Segmented, C1, and then Dracula X, Bad Ending Route. Those are the other games that I've no damaged. I would say that this is harder than all of those that I just listed. Maybe on par with Bloodlines JP, but actually probably harder than that, because the thing about Rondo of Blood is that as great of a game as Rondo of Blood is, it does have kind of an Achilles heel in the context of a no-hit run, which is that there's a lot of randomness in Rondo of Blood. It's not too much, but it's like enough that like if you're going for a no-hit run, you will sometimes just lose runs, even though like you didn't do anything wrong. Or like it can, your margin for error can be much larger or much shorter depending on the luck you get. So case in point here, the first boss, the Wyvern, I want to kill this boss before it shoots its first fire breath, because the fire breath will shoot like fire particles out in a pattern that I don't know ahead of time, and that I might just end up getting hit by, sort of in spite of whatever I try to do. And here, I pull it off exactly how I want it to, and I kill it before it shoots the fire breath. If it had gotten the fire breath off there, I would probably just hope, I'd probably like sit down in like the lower right corner and just hope that fire didn't come there. I could item crash, because item crashes are extremely important in a no-hit run, and something that I said in my tier list video was that item crashes were so cool in Rondo because they gave you this like strategic, it basically made you think about your hearts in a certain way. You have this resource that you can manage, you can strategize like when to use your item crashes, when to hold on to them, and that may have sounded somewhat laughable in that video, because really, like, in the context of a normal Rondo of Blood run, like, Rondo of Blood is not, like, super easy in general, but like for a Castlevania game, for a classic Castlevania game, it's pretty easy. So like really like the base game doesn't necessitate a whole lot of thought about the utilization of item crashes. But if you're going for a no-hit, then item crashes become like the most important thing in the game, and they're like the reason I was so interested in doing this in the first place, because the fact that you have to manage your hearts and decide when you're going to use item crashes to deal with what parts of the game, to deal with what bosses to avoid which attacks, gave it this like strategic component that made me feel like I was making a lot of like I was also like making the right choices, not just not like just having it all come down to execution. Like if there's a certain part of the run that was just like fucking me up really badly over and over again, that I could like allocate an extra item crash there to deal with that, and I just have to make up with it somewhere else by either not relying on item crashes for some other part of the game, or just like getting more hearts. And this is actually I've done this a lot. I have like, I want to say 3 or 4 or 5 no damage Richter runs. This first video is going to be the Richter. It's going to be Richter on the main route, like the route where you fight Death and where you fight the Minotaur, like the main levels. And the first version of this that I did, I wasn't like super happy with, so I went back and did it again. Then, but the thing is that both of those first 2 runs that I did, I was doing them on a save file that was already at 100%, which meant that I wasn't rescuing any maidens, I wasn't like watching any cutscenes, and for some reason that felt like it just didn't feel right somehow, even though like really it's not that different. But the thing is that it is different, because having to rescue Maria and then having to rescue Annette means that now like your sub-weapon choices are more limited, because you have to pick up the key before you rescue Maria, you have to pick up the key before you rescue Annette, which means you have to come up with different ways of dealing with some of the challenges relating to those two. So for example, right here, I needed to pick up the key to rescue Maria. That's a problem because I want the cross for the werewolf boss coming up, and I want the cross for the werewolf boss coming up because the werewolf boss is the one boss in the game that I'm going to completely fight just using item crashes. Like, I'm just going to spam item crashes to kill the werewolf because he's so unpredictable, and he's so fast, and he's so hard to deal with and to survive in a no-hit attempt. So I want to use the cross there because the cross's item crash does a lot of damage, like sustains itself for a long period of time, will like keep him under control, and only costs 15 hearts. My other viable choice would be the Holy Water, because the Holy Water also has like an item crash that hits like the whole screen and does like a pretty good chunk of damage. Problem is that the Holy Water item crash costs 20 hearts. The cross item crash only costs 15. And because of how important hearts are as like a resource in this run overall, and because I'm going to be using a lot of item crashes, like when I get to the boss rush and when I get to the death fight, I want to like save as many hearts as I possibly can. So what that means is that after I rescue Maria here, I'm actually going to backtrack through the Fishman room, go back up the stairs and grab the cross in the first room of this last indoor section, then go back down and go through the fish room again. Now the reason that's potentially a problem is because this whole Fishman gauntlet area is complete RNG. Like, sometimes the fish will just jump at you, and they'll just hit you, and there's nothing you can really do about it. So, I only really lost, like, but that being said, I only really lost, like, one run here. What I did at the start back there, by the way, was I went up the stairs and walked back down again to despawn all the fish. Because, like, just going out of Maria's cell and, like, going straight to the left, like, a lot of them can jump up from below and kind of, like, crowd you off of the corner. So I went up the stairs to despawn them, walked back down, dropped down, so that way they would spawn in more, like, favorable positions, and then backtrack to go get the cross. And even though that did cost me, like, a couple of runs, it's only, like 9 minutes into the run, which isn't, like, god-awful in a run like this. And also it just meant that I had a nice buffer of hearts to make sure that I could do the the Grim Reaper fight and the boss rush consistently. And the boss rush is kind of the biggest like potential point of failure in the entire run, so it was important to me to maximize my chances of success there. So yeah, as you can see, I hit the werewolf a couple times at the start, and then I just kind of sit in the corner. And what the item crash lets me do is lets me get in a bunch of damage for free, but it also lets me dedicate my attention 100% to just dodging his attacks, to just watching what he's doing and reacting to it. I don't have to worry about like hitting him, and that's the part that's really important. So if I had used the holy water there instead of the cross, I'd have 31 hearts right now instead of 41. And looking back on it, the thing is that there's a certain point of this run where I don't exactly know how many item crashes I'm going to need. And I'm just mentioning that now. I'm not going to like say what that is yet because it involves something that happens later, but I'm mentioning that now because I want to say that I'm kind of erring on the side of caution in a big way in terms of how many hearts I want. Like, you might think 10 extra hearts one way or the other, like, doesn't make a difference, and plus I don't even hold on to the cross for level 3, I pick up the dagger here. So, like, using the holy water there wouldn't have been the end of the world, and it would have meant I wouldn't have had those 2 resets to the merman room, and would make the route simpler. But there's going to be a part coming up towards the late game where I don't know, where I want to make sure that I have like basically as many hearts as I can get, more or less, without really playing slow and going like super out of my way to get hearts. I was kind of trying to like strike a balance because the first 2 no damage runs that I did, I ended with like way too many hearts, which said, okay, well that means either there were item crashes I could have used that I didn't, or there were hearts that I went out of my way to get that I didn't have to go out of my way to get. So I was trying to like find the perfect balance of like not wasting time and getting hearts that I don't need, but at the same time having like a comfortable buffer of hearts to feel like I'm still getting through the game with like a safe like safety net, just in case I need to item crash in an emergency, or in case the thing that happens later on like doesn't go the way that I want it to, and I end up item crashing more than I think I have to. So I just wanted to like make that clear that if it seems like I have more hearts than I need, or if it seems like I'm making decisions like back there to like go backtrack to get the cross instead of just using the holy water, that's because like I said, I'm erring on the side of caution. So this is really important. I get the dagger both so I can use an inexpensive item crash to clear out those 3 turrets back there, the like 3 dragon head turrets, because those skeletons that swing in on the bone ropes back there will like drop on top of you randomly. So you just want to get through that area like as fast as possible. That was really hairy. I think I didn't mean to do that. I think I meant to hit the Medusa head with an earlier whip swing, but it didn't quite connect, because like there's no way I did that on purpose, because that was way too close. So I think that was a mistake, but fortunately I made up for it. But the dagger is really useful not only for clearing out the turret with an inexpensive 10 heart item crash, but also for killing the hunchbacks on the stairwell, because hunchbacks are a gigantic like danger point in a no-hit run in this game, and in Dracula X, because the Rondo Dracula X hunchbacks are extremely unpredictable. The Castlevania 3 hunchbacks are too, to a certain extent, but there's like just way fewer of them, and generally they will put themselves in positions where they will easily just fall right on top of a whip swing, fall easily into like your melee range. So in C1 and C3 the hunchbacks aren't really an issue. In Rondo and Dracula X they can do a lot of different things that can fuck you up. So having like perfectly safe, really fast ways to clear them out like that is really important. So that's why I pick up the knife there. And I pick up the axe, and I'm going to hold on to the axe for, I think, until I get to the Grim Reaper. I'm going to use the axe on the Minotaur boss here, and then I'm going to use it for 4 and 5. You might be wondering, if you've played this game before, why I didn't pick up the Bible back there in the stairwell with the hunchbacks. It's because I decided that, just like for fun, I would not use the Bible for this route. Mostly because, like I said, I'm going to upload 2 different Richter runs, and if I did give myself some kind of arbitrary stipulation like that, then the end game would be exactly the same, because I would just be like using the Bible for pretty much the entire last 3 levels of the game. So here I decided to just like switch it up a little bit and not use the Bible for the main route video. And plus, like, that actually, like, matters in the main route, because in the alternate route, there actually isn't a Bible that's available if you only take, like, the alternate paths to all the alternate routes. The Minotaur boss He's already dead. I didn't have much time to talk about it. He's very scary, actually. That looked pretty smooth. But the thing about the Minotaur boss that's scary is that he can do like a petrification breath attack that that has a really fast wind up. So you kind of constantly have to be at maximum range away from him and constantly be ready to like back up, which is why every time I swung at him, you might notice that I kind of like paused. That was me like monitoring him to make sure he wasn't doing the first frame of his like petrification breath attack, because like that thing comes out super fast and you have to react to it really quickly. That was also a really common point of failure of the Minotaur. Just if I ever got lazy, if I ever like got unfocused, that's when I would get checked, was in that fight, and he'd wind up some like fucking breath attack and just hit me. I didn't mean to hit the Hunchback like that there, but it's good that it worked out that way. So you want the axe for the Minotaur fight in order to intercept the rocks that he throws. You'd want either the axe or the Bible for that, and since I decided to just arbitrarily not use the Bible, I went with the axe. And the axe is really good for this part too, so I probably would have used it anyway, because it's just a really inexpensive way to clear out the bone serpents, which are extremely dangerous. They're just very... Their projectiles, it seems like, that can come out at like several different altitudes, at several different like points in his movements. His movements, like the movements of the bone serpents, don't seem to have any particular pattern. And this was kind of like the last... I remember like when I was planning this all out and like practicing the levels, trying to figure out what the problem's going to be, these guys were like my last big hurdle, and the axe was the big solution. Here, I actually do something very specific, which is I wait until that little outcropping of rock on the left, that like stone thing, is off the screen, and then as soon as that's off the screen, that's when I stop and I start throwing axes at the serpent. And you kind of have to be careful because he does have... I don't know if you'd call it iframes exactly, but if you throw like too many axes in a row, then they won't all do damage. You have to like throw and then wait, then throw and then wait. And there, I like barely managed to kill him in time before he threw out the fire breath that I was worried about dodging. So this room, I'm going to be playing super slowly. I have kind of an interesting decision here, which is that I can either run through this staircase room or drop down that hole down there and go into a different room. I went with this room, even though this room sucks. And I'll say the reason this room sucks is because those rolling balls can hit you, and it can be really easy to like accidentally walk into them or jump into them and take like contact damage. You can like kind of touch them without taking damage, but if they like roll on top of you, or if the game thinks that they rolled on top of you, then you'll take damage from them, and that's just really easy to accidentally do, which is why I play this part kind of slow. But the other route is worse, because the other route spawns more of those like bone snake enemies that fly through the air that you saw in the hallway back there, and they spawn like right on top of you. And there were a couple times where I was able to clear that room with the axe, just like being super aggressive and throwing an axe at like the bone serpents, the bone snakes, like as soon as they spawned. But sooner or later, one of them would always end up spawning in a place where I couldn't immediately kill them, and they would just hit me. So even though I hate that rolling rock room, it's probably like my least favorite room in the entire game, at least in the entire main route. It was still the smarter of the two choices, just because I could clear it more consistently if I was just a little bit, cautious. Excuse me. Level 4 is also like a really big... There's a lot that can go wrong in level 4, mostly involving the bone serpents and the rock room, if I'm just not like completely on top of my game. Beautiful. That's another thing the axe is really good for, although I think the Bible can clear those guys out pretty fast too. This was so bizarre. Somehow I fuck up this jump. I actually didn't fuck up the jump, I did land on the ledge, but I walked back off to the left because I was expecting to land on the stairs, and I was expecting to like do a quick turnaround like I did there, where I land on the stairs and quick turn out to the left and walk back up, but instead I landed on the ledge, fell back down, and if you watch that back again, I actually almost got hit by that spike ball, the counterweight to the platform. So that was actually really close and would have been a really, really awful, embarrassing, horrible reset, but fortunately it didn't happen. So the Dullahan is a boss that took a lot of practice for me, because... And it was the kind of thing where it was always like way easier in practice than it was in actual runs, because in runs, I just like play differently because I'm under more pressure. I'm thinking about like, you know, because getting this far in a run is like pretty good. I've gotten through level 2 RNG. I've gotten through like level 3 the Minotaur. I've gotten through like a lot of the tricky stuff in level 4. So at this point I'm like really thinking a lot about like how valuable the run is, which is bad because that means that I end up playing cautiously, which is not what I want on the Dualahan. On the Dualahan, I want to kill him exactly at that point, after he throws his head up, but before he starts summoning rocks that fall down. And that means that I need to be like in his face. I need to be playing like the Dualahan range game, where I'm close enough to hit him with my whip, but also far away enough to not walk into his like lance. I need to be playing that like all the time and playing it perfectly. So this was like a psychological obstacle for me to overcome, was just like teaching myself to play the Dualahan in runs the way that I played it in practice, which is being like super aggressive and just not being afraid to sorry, I bumped my microphone. Not being afraid to like get up in his face. So I did eventually learn to do that. This part with the flails is scary because of those skulls that can spawn, and this is like a discretionary item crash, where if I don't like the look of the skulls spawning, then I will item crash there. If they don't, then I'll just hold on to the 10 hearts, and I'll just have those 10 hearts, like, extra. And that's sort of what I mean when I talk about why I want to err on the side of having more hearts, because there are some things in the run where I'd like to have an item crash just available in case something goes wrong, but it might not always go wrong, so I can't necessarily plan around that. That's one of the vagaries of Rondo of Blood, is that sometimes things go wrong that don't always go wrong. Taking this lower route is a little bit risky because you do have to crouch and whip that second gunman on a pretty tight timing, but it's better than dealing with the summoned weapons on the main route, in my opinion. I just always had a hard time handling those. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there's like that shortcut that I took falling down that hole with the two gunmen. That's like an alternate path. The main path takes you into a room where a bunch of like weapons are flying around, and it's just very hairy. Okay, so this part with the seagulls was a really scary, like, this was like a huge problem when I first started doing runs. And it wasn't until I realized how, like, good the axe was, not only in level 5, but also in level 4, that I realized how, like, that just made it all so much smoother, because for a while there I was actually trying to use the Bible here, like, hold on to it basically for longer than I should have. Which has the advantage of like, the Bible lets you kill the armors faster, but it also means that, like, every time you want to kill one of these fuckers, you have to spend 3 hearts, and you have to, like, hope that they run into the Bible's trajectory, which they usually do, but sometimes they don't. And it just was so much simpler to just hold on to the axe all the way through level 4, and just get to that part, and put myself on a seabird diet, which means if I see a bird, I kill it. I don't fuck around. I don't just like, oh, maybe I'll avoid it, maybe I can get out of the level before that. No, just turn around, throw the fucking axe at it, fucking kill it, just get it out of your life, and then go back to focusing on the armors. That was my strategy for that section. So with the Grim Reaper, I only want to item crash twice here to get through phase 1. I'll item crash 3 times if I feel like I have to, but that means basically that I'll have to not have an item crash. That'll basically mean that level 7 will be less safe, for reasons that you'll see in a little bit. So that's why I'm not just spamming item crashes here, that's why I'm hitting him a few times, is because I want to make sure that I can kill him in 2 item crashes. And I actually almost could have killed him in 1. If I had hit him, like, if I had gotten 1 more shot on him there, I actually would have only had to use 1 item crash to beat him, but, like, that's fine. 2 item crashes is, like, my planned amount. That's well within acceptable parameters, as the scientists in Half-Life 1 would say. And that's just the smarter decision if I'm in a position where I'm not sure that I can dodge all of his scythes. Phase 2 is, like, very hairy. This was so strange, because when I played Rondo of Blood, like, casually, like, or not casually, but normally, the first time I played through Rondo of Blood, Phase 2 was, like, never a problem. I feel like I like, no-damaged Phase 2, like, all the time when I first played through Rondo of Blood. But when I went back to do these no-hit runs, like phase 2 of the Grim Reaper became this like gigantic problem where I would like lose runs here over and over again just because the scythes would spawn at like at a strange altitude and come at me from some weird angle I wasn't anticipating and hit me. And so for a while there I did think about item crashing again to get through phase 2 quickly, but it ultimately just boiled down to being patient and just like respecting his scythes as much as I possibly could and not getting too aggressive, just playing it smart and playing it slow, which is what I did back there. So that was fine, is what I'm saying in a very roundabout way. And it could have been maybe if I had only if phase 1 had gone so well that I only ended up using one item crash to get through phase 1, I might have used the second one on phase 2. But maybe not, just because I don't know how exactly that would play out. I don't know, because if you knock him back too far, then he does like the jumpy spinny scythe attack, um, and like dive bombs you, and I would be worried about like triggering that in a way that I don't want to. So I think I played that fine. Sorry for talking over these cutscenes. I don't speak Japanese. I don't know what they're saying. I think that I think that what's being said is conveyed sufficiently through the visuals, though. There was a point in time where I thought about... There was like a period of time where I wanted to use the Bible on the Grim Reaper fight, because I was having so many bad level 2s, because the Bible let me clear out the scythes that he summons in phase 2 more easily. But that was a problem just because there's just a margin of error for Bibles. Like throwing a Bible to clear out scythes on phase 1, it will work most of the time, but it doesn't work all the time the way that item crashes do. And it also meant that I had to hold on to the Bible through the bird gauntlet before that, which complicated things and added just like another point of failure. So even though having the Bible for phase 2 of the Grim Reaper did make the phase 2 feel safer, it created problems in phase 1. It created problems with the birds. It was just not the smart decision. So even though I did actually finish a run using the Bible all the way through level 3, 4, and 5, that was not the smartest decision. Speaking of not the smartest decision, I don't think I meant to throw a cross there. I think I meant to whip, but I didn't. So speaking of not the smartest decision, this is like my weird, like dumb, like arbitrary extra challenge where I wanted to do this without using the Bible, which I had done before, but now with cutscenes, which means I get fucked harder if I mess up because I have to do that again. If I was using the Bible, I would use the Bible for this boss rush, like no question. That's like rule number 1 of the boss rush is use the Bible. Not using the Bible and using the cross instead meant that I had to sort of come up with some new strategies from what I had done before. That was a little bit scary there. I don't really like how close I let that bat get to me. And the reason I'm using the cross is purely because it has the most inexpensive item crash, and it has a little bit of neat utility. Like right there, you'll notice that the cross let me get in another hit on Medusa here, which is important because what I want to do here is kill her before she summons her little like ring snakes, and beautiful. That was great. That was exactly what I wanted, more or less. I actually think there were some attempts where I killed her on like that third swing that would have triggered a jump, and she didn't do the jump. But I don't mind her doing the jump because then I get to air shot her, which is cool. I was really scared about doing this without the Bible, but throwing crosses in that, doing 7 whips and then throwing 2 crosses, almost always clears out the bandages, and then just throwing one cross after the next few whips clears out all the bandages except for that one. So that's a little bit scary. That's kind of the biggest problem created by not using the Bible is the mummy. But it's still, like, generally pretty consistent. I, like, kept on pushing the boundaries of the Frankenstein fight. So originally my plan for the Frankenstein fight was to use an item crash there, to use iframes to not have to dodge his second lightning shot. But eventually I was just like, you know what? Like, I bet I don't have to do that. Because I wanted, like, as many item crashes as I could to get through the shaft fight and to get through the bat bridge. coming up later, and I'll explain that shortly. Because I'm going to be using a lot of item crashes on Shaft. And basically I saw an opportunity to, like, if I can just outskill the Frankenstein fight and not have to item crash on it, then that's just, like, that just embiggens my safety net for the home stretch, and the home stretch is really, like, the most important part. Like, if I get through the boss rush, then I have a really good shot to take it all the way home, because it was very rare, actually, that I would ever lose runs after the boss rush. I think it only happened once in all of the different attempts that I did of this, and that was fucking really close. I don't know. I think I didn't expect the orbs to sustain themselves for that long. I think I I thought that by the time I thought that I had time to stand there and throw the cross and hit Shaft, and ultimately I did. But if you watch that back, that was, like, really close. That was way closer than I would have wanted it to be. Those orbs almost hit me, so that was really scary, but otherwise that was honestly, like, a pretty clean Shaft fight for fighting him without the Bible. If you fight him with the Bible, you can do some incredibly fast and like, insanely clean kills, but that's not what I'm doing. So there are a couple of ways to do the Bat Bridge. The way that, like, normal people do it is they use an ability that I actually haven't used at all here, which is they have Richter moonwalk and then jump and whip to kill the bats as they appear behind him. My brain is just not constructed to do that. I've tried doing the moonwalking, jumping, whipping thing. I just can't make it work. So this is my solution, is to collect as many hearts as I can, keep jumping forward, and then when I think a bat is about to touch me, then I item crash and I just clear them all out of the way. And this is the part of the run that really created a big question mark in terms of how many hearts I would actually need and how many item crashes I would actually perform, because how nice the bats are to me in the Bat Bridge section makes a big difference. Sometimes they can spawn really aggressively and they can just keep, like, flying forward, and they can make me item crash like 2 more times than I expect to, which means that I need to have a really big safety net of hearts when I go into level 7 to make sure that I can get through the Bat Bridge cleanly. So that was why I was so concerned about making sure that I conserved as many as I possibly could. That's why I didn't item crash on Frankenstein, even though I kind of wanted to. That's why I only wanted the item crash twice on the Grim Reaper. That's why I wanted the cross instead of the holy water for the werewolf fight. That second harpy is the biggest bitch in the universe. That was so hard to figure out. I actually do remember this. I definitely lost at least one run to that harpy on this specifically, and this was a problem that was introduced by the fact that I was doing this on a fresh file and that I was rescuing Maria and Annette, because in the earlier attempts that I had done, you can just throw an axe from higher up and hit that harpy before you even see her, when you fall down through that second gear. So you can kill that second harpy without ever even being in any danger of getting hit by her if you have the axe. I don't have the axe. I can't clear out that part with the axe. I need to go in with the key, which meant that I had to figure out a timing for killing her with just the whip or just the key, either way. And it ultimately, I just had to go super fast. I just had to jump really fast, such that I was jumping over the dagger, not jumping into the dagger, meaning she had to start her animation for throwing it, and because, like, that's when she aims it at you, is I think when she starts the animation. So I had to jump over the dagger, then jump again before she basically before she was finished, while the knife is still in the air, jump a second time and whip her before she starts going into, like, her dodge phase, because what those harpies are programmed to do, if they're not doing anything else, is auto dodge out of the way of any of your attacks. And there are a couple of ways to prevent that from working. One way is to, like, kind of fall on top of them so they dodge up into your whip. Sometimes that works. And then the other way is to just catch them while they're doing something else, aka while they're in the middle of some attack animation or while they're still in the process of some attack animation. So that was the strategy there, and it was a very close timing, and I just had to, like, brute force learn it. I'm extremely annoyed that wasn't a first try backflip up onto that second ledge with the door, but oh well. That's far from the only thing about this level 7 that sucks, honestly. This whole level 7 is actually, like, a really messy. It almost kind of makes me wish I had uploaded some of my previous runs instead, but this is the run with the cutscenes. So This one's more holistic and more holistic because I'm also going out of my way to rescue Annette and dealing with all the problems that precipitates. These guys are not that scary once you figure out how they work, which I didn't know how they worked for a long time. The way they work is that they'll walk towards you if you're facing away from them, and then they'll like strafe away from you if you're facing towards them. So you have to bait them into you by looking away from yourself, and then like turn around and like get a few whip shots in. And they take 7 to kill or is it 8? Shit, I just I just fought 3 of them. It's either 7 or 8. I know it's 6 in Dracula X, and I know that's a downgrade, but I don't remember how much of a downgrade it is. I guess we're about to find out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, yeah, 8. Wow. That's good though. They're like climactic like endgame enemies. So this was really scary. I intended for that second axe to kill that bone monster, but that ain't what happened. What happened instead was he was still fuck, I wanted to finish dancing to the song there, but the pendulum was swinging back over. Oh well. But what happened was the second axe, like, he still had, like, I guess iframes, or like damage invulnerability from the first axe, so the second axe didn't really connect. That's when, like, when I jumped across, I was expecting him to be dead. So, like, me whipping there to intercept that volley of bones was, like, a pure instinct thing. Like, I didn't think he would be alive when I performed that jump. I thought he'd already be dead. So that was really, really scary and really close. And this fight is also, like, really fucking weird. Although it's a good illustration of another, like, emergency item crash point. So he's not getting hit by my fucking whip. Like, he's not, like, hovering low enough for me to hit him. And that's terrible, because here's what I want for this fight. I want him to only ever summon the behemoth. That fucking bat almost hits me too, by the way. I never want him to summon the dragon, because this dragon summons fire patches in a random pattern. Which means he can force me to item crash. Where, like, if I'm standing at a certain patch of ground and, like, it looks like he's gonna breathe fire on top of me, I have to item crash there to use invulnerability to avoid it. Which is not what I want. Fortunately there, he did summon the wyvern, but the wyvern didn't summon any fire. Didn't, like, shoot any fire towards my position, so I didn't have to item crash there, but I don't want to item crash there. I want to get to Dracula with as many hearts as I can get, because I'm going to use the cross to get through Phase 1, and then I'm going to make generous use of the cross item crash in Phase 2 to deal with the one thing about Dracula that's actually kind of dangerous, which I'll talk about more when we get to it. But the Ghost of Shaft fight is supposed to be a very simple pattern of whipping him so that he always, like, whipping him over to the left on the first phase, and then letting him summon the behemoth, then whipping him back to the right, then back over to the left, and then waiting and letting him summon the behemoth. Basically making sure he doesn't summon the wyvern. That's the goal. And then also using the axe to clear out the bats as they spawn if it looks like they're spawning in a place that's going to be a problem. And the Bible's good for that too, which you'll see in my other video. So my strategy for Dracula here, I don't know if this is optimal or not, but this is the first solution I found that worked, and it's why this is actually, even though this Dracula fight is somewhat underwhelming, I actually still really like it just because I get to backflip over fireballs. Maybe it's like suboptimal, maybe it's like not necessary, but this is what I learned, this is what I know how to do, and it's really cool. It is suboptimal, the Bible kills him a lot faster. But this is my no Bible run, which, to be honest with you, the whole no Bible thing was mostly just an excuse to do the Dracula fight while backflipping over fireballs. So, but Phase 1, as you can see, is pretty simple. Phase 2 is a lot scarier, because in Phase 2, the thing about Phase 2 that's scary is that when he jumps, the margin of error, like the time you have to run underneath his jump, is extremely tight. And my solution for this is that if he's taking damage while he's in midair, then it seems to slow him down a little bit, and it gives me more time to walk out from under him. So what I want to use the item crash such that the item crash impacts him in midair as he's jumping and gives me time to angle away from him. And here I do something really dumb. I almost risk it all there at the end with that last jump forward. I almost jumped like into his kneecap because he was being stalled by the item crash. He wasn't like hovering back as fast as he normally could. So that was actually really close and really dumb, and I shouldn't have done that. But ultimately, it worked out. And I ended with 17 hearts to spare, which is actually exactly the margin of safety that I would want, because that's enough for one more cross item crash if I needed it. If he jumped more than I thought he did, if for some reason like the cross item crash didn't do the amount that I thought I would, if I had to item crash on the Ghost of Shaft fight back there, that also would have covered that. So 17 hearts is like a perfect margin for this run. Shit. Sorry. 17 hearts is a perfect margin for this run. Sorry, I hit my microphone again, and this time I had to edit it out. So that's the run. I never failed on Dracula because I practiced it a lot, and because it's not that hard to do on Richter for this version of the fight, where I'm only concerned about not taking damage. Although it is very scary. Like that phase 2 was a little strange. He basically he cornered me, which is not what I wanted, but fortunately he had taken enough damage at that point that he was ready to slide back to the left part of the screen and shoot his lightning attack. So it all worked out, basically, is what I'm saying. Which is kind of how things are with Rondo of Blood, especially with the boss fights. Some of the boss fights are extremely consistent and do just come down to like pure direct execution. The boss rush bosses, with the exception of Shaft, are all basically like that. Well, no, the Bat can fuck with you a little bit. And then, like, the Grim Reaper, the only randomness is really, like, the Scythe patterns. The Dullahan's pretty consistent because his behavior is dependent largely on how much damage you do to him. So if you fight him the same way every time, then it'll work out great. And then the Minotaur can just fuck you with a Petrification Breath. And then my plan with the Werewolf is basically not to fight it. So even though the Rondo bosses have a lot of... like, they can fuck you up in a lot of different ways. There's solutions for all of them, except basically for the Shaft fight in the boss rush. The Shaft fight in the boss rush was by far the biggest point of failure in all the attempts I ever did, and it led to me just like practicing it obsessively and barely squeezing out like a slightly more consistent success rate rather. And the problem with the Shaft fight was just the lightning orbs, like, because I just can't figure them out. I understand how the lightning orbs on the Shaft fight work in concept, where they either like zoom out away from you or they converge on top of you, but I just had an awful time. I'm just terrible at telling when they're going to do which of those two things. And practice like didn't seem to help. So my strategy was, and you may have noticed this, was to just try to dodge the first 2 lightning orb shots as best I can, and then on the third one, just fucking item crash. And don't even worry about trying to anticipate or dodge it, just use the iframes from the item crash to not get hit by it, so that way even if you fuck up and you don't respond correctly, you still don't take damage from it. So that was my strat for Shaft, was item crash once for the fire orbs to get them out of the way, then item crash a second time on the lightning. So you can see why I wanted to conserve so many hearts for the boss rush, because between the boss rush, the Shaft fight, and then between the Grim Reaper fight, the Shaft fight, and then the Bat Bridge, I was using up a lot of hearts doing a lot of item crashes, so that's why my heart count was so important. And that's what honestly made this run so engaging, was the fact that it had this strategic resource management element to it on top of all the execution, and it was what made it feel more rewarding, because I felt like I could adjust my strategy depending on the problems that I was encountering and increase my chances of success, which is gratifying. So this is the first Rondo of Blood run. I'm actually going to upload another one tomorrow, another Richter mode run. That's going to be Richter the alternate route, and I'm going to actually use the Bible in that one, so you'll see a slightly more conventional endgame there, although I still do a couple of goofy things. This was really fun to do. It was pretty grueling, it was really tough, but it was also really fun. And I hope you guys enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed doing it. Keep your eyes peeled for more coming out soon, and until you hear from me again, keep on Earth rocking.